Hi, I'm your tutor Sarah, and I wanted to show you what online tutoring is going to look like for high school students. Before I show you what the technology is going to look like, I just wanted to mention what you should expect from a lesson. So most often students want to work on their homework. Sometimes students aren't able to get a start on their homework because they didn't understand the lesson in the first place. So I could give a lesson. Usually, when I do give a lesson, I use example problems to demonstrate the concepts. So I'm very thorough when I go through examples. I don't skip any steps. Everything is going to be recorded in this OneNote document. It automatically saves every time I make a change. And I'll be providing you with a link so you have access to that document at any time you want. So once I've showed a couple problems, then I would have the students try one. Sometimes if they're getting stuck, I would ask leading questions to guide them through. And then hopefully by maybe the third or fourth question, they're able to completely do them on their own. Some students will dictate to me what's to write in the OneNote document, and they'll choose to write down their solution later on. Other students like to write down on paper themselves, and then they dictate back to me what they wrote. As they dictate back, that's often an opportunity for them to pick up on any mistakes that they made. If they didn't notice the mistake, I'll let them know there's one there, ask them if they can find where it is. If they can't, I'll point it out and we'll go from there. Sometimes the student is not solving problems correctly, not because they don't understand the new concept, but because there's some older concepts that they didn't master or they just didn't have enough practice with. So we might take some time to review those things. So this means you shouldn't expect to complete homework or an assignment in an appointment because all of those extra things can take time. So you should try to do as much of your homework in advance before we meet. We'll be meeting online via Skype, and there's a button for me to share my computer screen. So what you'll be seeing is this. It's a OneNote document. The title will be your name, and that will be right here. And this works like a file folder system. So the names of the files will be up here. I usually date them so that it's easy to find things in chronological order. And within a file folder, we can have multiple pages. Sometimes I'll have a special tab for something that we want to refer back to on a regular basis. You should send me a photo of your calculator because if you have any questions about how to use it, I have an image that I can always circle on, and I can write down step by step what you need to type in. So maybe you need to press the sign button in the first step, and maybe I would color code that so that it's easy for you to see. And maybe in step 2, you enter in the number, and so on. And instead of maybe having one image of your calculator with many circles on it, maybe I might just take copies of this picture and draw on each picture separately. I want to show you about graphing because you're going to do a lot of graphing in high school, and you're going to be expected to do most of that by hand. So I can have graph paper in this OneNote document. So obviously, this is by hand, just like you're going to do. So it's not going to be perfect. So it's going to be very representative of what you're going to be doing on your own in class. So no issues with showing you how to do things by hand. Sometimes you'll be needing to use a graphing calculator, and I have access to a graphing calculator on my computer. And, you'll probably be pressing quite a few buttons, and if this is one of the very first units that you're working on, maybe by the time the exam rolls around, you don't remember the order in which you need to press those buttons. So again, the convenience of this OneNote document is that I can take screen clippings of images and I can copy them. If I needed to graph something on this calculator, when you first turn it on, you'd see this screen. You'd have to press the Y equals button, and you would put your equation in here, and then you would press graph. So what I could have done here is I could have first took a screen clipping before I graphed, and I can circle the button that we used to get to this screen. And again, just like with your other calculator, I might put down step by step what you would press. So the y equals button. Then we put in the equation, and when I put in that equation, I had to use this button here for the variable. Maybe I would put that in green. And again, I don't have to have just the one image. The next step was to press the graph button to graph it. Then I might take a screen clipping of that image so you see in order what you should be seeing on the calculator. I also wanted to mention Desmos really quickly because that's an app that some teachers are telling students to download onto their phone. So there is a version online that I can have access to, so we can work on that together. And some students might be using Excel, maybe chemistry students. If they've done an experiment, they might have to write up a lab and maybe they need to graph something in Excel. So I wouldn't be doing this for you. I might use like made up data, and I could be sharing my screen, and maybe on your end, maybe you would have Excel opened on your computer at the same time and we can follow along with one another. So I might just be demonstrating how to graph this data. So I would insert, choose the graph that I want, and then I can show you how to do other things there. And also, you know, if you're going to be doing more labs and you need to make more graphs, you may want documentation of that. So again, I can take some screen clippings, put them in here, and write down step by step what you'll need to be doing. Algebra tiles are used to show pictorially how to solve algebraic equations, among other things. And if you've done this before, it can be quite annoying, especially if you make some mistakes, because the teacher's going to expect you to draw out each step, and if you make a mistake, you might have to erase and start all over again. So that can be quite time consuming. So, you know, if I have an app, like I do here, then I can easily just drag and drop the pieces that we need for the problem. I wanted to solve 2x plus 1 equals 2. My first step is just setting up that equation. At this point, I could take a screen clipping of what we have. And then obviously there are other steps. So I could label step 2, we would do step 2, and then we would take a screen clipping of that, and so on. So that keeps a record of how to solve the problem. Also, you are able to share your screen with me, just like I share my screen with you in Skype. It's just a button in Skype. So you could have this website opened up on your computer, and you could be manipulating it yourself, and I can watch you as you solve the problem. So sometimes you'll be doing textbook problems. I have an online version for the grade 9 math textbook in Nova Scotia, but that's pretty much it. I don't have access to much else. So if you have an online version, a link to an online version, then I would be grateful if you could share that with me. It's going to make our life much easier. Because again, I can take screen clippings just like I did with those other images. If not, I have copies of the paperback textbooks, maybe not all of them, but most of them. So I can take pictures of questions in your book. If I don't have a copy of your book, you may have to be taking the pictures and sending them to me. And it would be best if you could do that in advance of the appointment, just so that we're not wasting time doing that during the appointment. Specifically with problem solving, I wanted to show you that we have a highlighter, and highlighting and color coding things when problem solving really wordy problems can be really helpful. So in this question, we have a waffle cone that has a height of 15 inches, and maybe I would put the next measurement, the base diameter of 2 inches, in a different color. So, you know, sometimes it helps to color code things. And that's something you can't even do in your own textbook because you're not supposed to be marking in them. And also because I have the stylus, I'm not using a mouse, it's really quick and easy for me to draw diagrams. So really the convenience of this program is just, you know, images, images, images. I know, this might look intimidating to some people. You might not know what it is. It's a unit circle, and you will be using that in pre-cal. Just something really quick that you'll need to know to follow along with what I'm doing here. This coordinate is for this point right here, and this tells me the value for cosine. OneNote needs to take a break. The value for cosine and the value for sine. So you might have quite a few homework problems on this, and you may want a visual documentation of how to solve those problems. So if I need to solve cosine of 60 degrees, what I would do is I would make a horizontal line starting on the x-axis on the right-hand side, and I would rotate till we get to the 60-degree mark, and at the end of that line is this coordinate, and remember the cosine value is the x value, so our final answer for that is going to be 1/2. So I've made a few markings on there, so if you have many more questions to do, you don't want to need to be drawing all over that same diagram, because having too many lines on the same diagram can get quite confusing, and when you go to review at exam time, you may want record of every single question. So if I want to solve for sine 30, I could just get a copy of that image and draw a new diagram and find that the value for sine of 30 degrees, of 30 degrees is 1/2. I also threw in a periodic table here just to mention, I have chemistry students as well. Obviously, it's going to be convenient if I'm able to show you an image of the periodic table so I can point out some things if you're having trouble finding them. Maybe you're just having trouble finding tellurium. It's right here. There's also plenty of relationships or patterns in the periodic table. Maybe one of them would be increasing electronegativity on the diagonal. So just being able to have an image to draw on, and again, to make multiple copies of, because you don't want too many lines on the one periodic table to get confusing. So if you think that the online tutoring is something that could work for you, then you could go to my website. And here's another thing we can do. I can also put links to any websites that we were using right in here, and when you click it, it's going to take you right to the website. On my website, in the top right-hand corner, is my contact button. It would take you at the very bottom of the page where there is a form that you can fill out. Or you can email me directly. My email is at the bottom here, or you could telephone me. I do offer a free 15-minute consultation, so that would be good for, if, obviously I've already demonstrated how the online tutoring works, but maybe you just want to make sure that all the technology is going to work on your end, and that, maybe you're nervous about meeting with a stranger. Maybe you might want to meet with me and ask me some questions first before we get into the math. So I hope to be able to help you with all of your math and chemistry problems, and have a terrific semester.